Hi, this is Rabbi Simi Andel, a congregation called Bnei Yisrael, community of Jewish friends. And I again want to thank everybody that complimented the Pirkei Avos on the study of Pirkei Avos that we're doing here. And it's really a pleasure to be back. We finished the second chapter already. And as I said in the last YouTube, we will review the second chapter where we left off in depth, according to Hasidus and according to understanding something deeper in here. So we'll start with the fifth Mishnah, which speaks about that one who is a bor cannot be a person that fears sin. We explain this to mean, on the simple level, one that doesn't know anything, not about the world and not about the religion, about Torah, or anything like that. We're not passing judgment on him. It's just that he doesn't know what sin is and what sin is not, so therefore he can't fear sin. There's another interpretation which the Neitz Chesed says, the Halakha Kaman, and he says as follows: a bor literally is a pit, a ditch, but it's worse than that. It's a pit in the winter where everything gets frozen. So that one who is a frozen pit, meaning to say that his character is frozen. He has no simcha, he has no joy, he has no growing, he has not going further. And as far as he's concerned, he's just good the way he is. He might even know how to say a pilpul in learning, he might even pray every day, put on tefillin, keep Shabbos, but he doesn't realize that one must grow. He knows he has to eat and sleep, and he would like a better piece of meat or something in other things, in worldly, gashmistic, physical things, but when it comes to spiritualism, he doesn't know that one must grow. So he's a bor, he's in one place, frozen. And that's a real problem, because sins and mitzvahs are different in every situation. What might be a sin at one time could be a mitzvah another time, as the Talmud tells us. Everything that is prohibited to us in one place is permitted to us, and maybe even a mitzvah in another place. Okay, without going just saying generalities, what that means is eating certain foods is prohibited. Eating food, good food and kosher food on Shabbos or on holidays is a mitzvah. On other holidays is a great mitzvah. One might not have, one might not be allowed to just have relationships with anybody, but one marries, so one has children. There's so many differences in a Jew's life that unless one is really understanding of the world and understanding of Yiddishkeit, one really doesn't understand. And in fact, that's the next thing, that in Amaretz, someone who is ignorant could be a Yerechet. He could understand because of either the atmosphere that he was brought up in, he was taught, or that he's studied on his own, or even just dealing with the world itself. He knows the ins and the outs of what's right and what's wrong. Might not be the chassid, he might not be on a higher level, but he's growing from day to day in worldly things, which allows him to grow in his religious things and in his spiritual things. Okay, next part of the Mishnah is one who is shy to ask a teacher while studying a lesson won't be able to learn. And one who is an angry person, gets angry very easily, can't be a teacher. So the embarrassed person, the shy person, is one who doesn't evaluate enough the learning and can't jump out of his own self, grow past himself and ask the question in the learning, which eventually that means that the learning is not important enough for himself. Doesn't have to mean that he's bad that way, but sometimes the sages teach us chutzpah yaski, to just go ahead of ourselves and grab what's right and ask the question and challenge the teacher. On the other hand, a teacher that's always angry and shortcoming and doesn't have the respect for the student, as Maimonides says in the Laws of Teaching Torah, Talmud Torah, the 8th chapter, says that just like the student has to respect the teacher and respect the learning, so too the teacher has to respect the student. Yes. Covered for the Talmud. A great person once said there's a difference between covet and respect. For those who know Hebrew, covet is respect. But covet is, there are certain rules and laws. How does one give covet to his father or his mother? That he doesn't sit in their place, doesn't contradict what they're saying, and it goes on and on. Still doesn't mean that you're respecting your father and mother. When you respect your father and mother, that's the purpose of all these rules and laws. So when one does all these things and doesn't really respect in their kishkis, in their heart, in their mind, then it doesn't mean much. So evaluating and holding for special, higher, and important the studying, which both the student has to do and the teacher has to do by not getting angry. And if the person has a nature of being angry, then they have to grow out of it. Otherwise, don't be a teacher, don't be a melamed. Enough children have gotten lost through the generations because they were great teachers and professional teachers, and they had degrees, whether it was secular degrees or religious degrees, didn't mean anything. Did they respect the student? And again, children know. My father was a very special person, and he would say about parents and children, you could fool the whole world, but you can't fool your own children. Same goes to a teacher in cheder or in school. You could fool everybody else, but the student really knows who you are. He knows how much you love them and how much you love the learning. So again, we come to the main purpose and focus of the studying of Pirkei Avos, which has nothing to do with halacha. It has to do with how a person grows. A person becomes more connected to Hashem and to the Torah and to Jews. The three loves that the Baal Shem Tov says, right? The love that Hashem gives to us, if we could not only see it as selfish people and think about it in ourselves, but also to pursue it and to give it over to our students and evaluate how great it is, so that we should steig and become bigger and more closer to Hashem, knowing how far we still are and how great Hashem is. A Jew is humble to Hashem and his values, which are those three loves, and always longing and wanting to be connected more to other Jews and to Hashem and to the Torah, which brings us to love every Jew that we meet and we see. It's a goal, and it could be attained. It's not so hard. Just need to be a little bit more humble and know how great we are and how much greater we could really be till the last breath of air that we breathe. We'll go further. Where there's no person that's ample or that can do the teaching or whatever has to be done, you be the person. So the the Kamarna in his Netzach Chesed says that with Zrizis and Simcha and Tuv Lev, what does that mean? With the joy and the good heart to carry out the joy. One could be joyous, but we need a good heart to bring out the joy, and we need Zrizis. Zrizis means that it should be accomplished, not just philosophized about. With these three traits, if there's someone else that can't do whatever has to be done, whether it's being in the congregation and leading the congregation, going over to the Yomid, whether it's helping a person that no one else might have the capabilities of doing it, tap into the joy, tap into your own good heart. But it should be bezrizis, it should be accomplished, not just spoken about. So the next Mishnah speaks about Hillel, who saw this corpse in the water, and the great Hillel, who was known for his love and helping others even when Shammai didn't, as everybody knows, the many stories, said to this corpse, "You are lying there because you did that to someone else." Obviously, he recognized he had the Ruach HaKodesh, and the end will be the one that did that to you will also wind up there. Well, the first part of the Mishnah is explained by the Netzach Chesed, the name of the Arizal. The Baal Shem HaKadosh also says, the Bab Chereb Zechanvach quotes it as well, that Hillel's original life, his first life, was Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a Gilgal of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses, our teacher. And this corpse was Pharaoh, Paro, the leader of the Egyptians. Very interesting. So he says, because you drowned the poor little Jewish children, as the Torah says, his decree and his hatred to the Jewish people was so that he told the parents to drown their boys. He told actually the nurses, and they didn't, and that's why they were given great reward. But anyway, so Moshe finally saw that when Paro was drowning in the water, when the Jews went out of Egypt, he said to him, the Talmud says in Saita that many things in this world are so far, in our eyes, are so far from the truth, and we can't always track back how the Torah is relevant to our times. Only one thing we could, Mida K'neged Mida. We see how a person is punished or rewarded, and we say, wait a minute, there is a God in the world. Don't always. And most other things we don't at all see or can understand the Hashkacha Malmayla, how Hashem runs the world. But in Mida K'neged Mida, the Talmud says, this is one thing that we see many times. And Moshe lived to see how Pharaoh, the enemy of the Jews, was drowned in the water. A person in his own growing can also see the Mida K'neged Mida, something that we really want to do. We want to grow in. Hashem smiles to us and gives to us. And the Medrash says that in spiritual things, God answers the prayers much faster than physical and mundane things, because isn't that our purpose for being here? Isn't that the purpose of all mundane and gashmiistic things? Stop here meanwhile, and we'll continue in the next one in Pirkei Avos till we finish the second chapter with depth, and then we'll go to the third chapter.